Welcome back, everybody, and we're going to continue now our kind of overview on A Course in Miracles, and basically it's kind of the do's and don'ts of the course and what the course is all about. Now, in the course you'll have 3 books, and some people say, where is the right book? Where should we start? You've got the book, Roy, haven't you?
What book?
Course in Miracles? Mm-hmm. No? But basically there are 3 books. So at the beginning, the first book is the text. The second book is all the workbook. It's all our lessons. There are 365 lessons. We do one every day. And the third book then is the manual for teachers. But in the third edition of the course, and that's the edition I would recommend to people who are starting out in the Course in Miracles, you have also got the supplements, and you have got the psychotherapy supplement, and you have got the clarification of times, and clarification of terms, and you have got the Song of Prayer. And that's where I would tell people to start. I would start at the back of the book rather than at the front of the book. Because the Song of Prayer is one of the most important parts of the course. Because it discusses and reveals the ego right mind, the persona. And that's very important, because when you start doing the course, your ego actually starts to get enhanced. Because you start to hear all these wonderful stuff of who you are, that you're not guilty, that you're the Son of God, all of these things. So now all of a sudden this feel-good factor comes into you, which again is coming from here, the persona. Okay, and this is not a bad thing, but just observe it. Okay, but the Song of Prayer will reveal basically a lot of the traps of the persona. Like it has got what true forgiveness is, so the Song of Prayer shows us what forgiveness is not. And we'll do a little bit, and one of our classes down the road, we'll be doing a day on forgiveness and self-empowerment, so we'll get that cleared up. But just to give you an example, right, the course is written on 3 levels. So that means you have level 1, it's written on 5 levels. But level 4 and 5, don't worry about it. Okay, because that's heaven and knowledge and truth, and it's about Christ, the real world up here. So our task is to get from 1 to 3. And that means everything that you read in the course, you'll be reading it on a certain level. You'll be reading it on either one of these 3 levels. Okay? And where you should put most of your focus to, if you're doing the Course in Miracles, is level 1. Because that's where we're all at. Don't spend your time up here in level 3 or 4 or 5. Alright, get in and start doing the work at level 1. And that means on every level, okay, like for example, forgiveness means something different on every level. So here, at this level, we have the forgiveness of Christianity. False forgiveness. This is the ego's forgiveness. Okay? Here we have true forgiveness. True forgiveness literally takes you from here to this level. It takes you into the true right mind. Because forgiveness detaches. Okay? And then we have complete forgiveness at this level. So, throughout the course you'll hear terms of false forgiveness, true forgiveness, and complete forgiveness. Just in your mind, now you'll be able to take that and set it into a level. Oh, that's where that's talking about here. So if you can imprint these levels into your mind, when you're reading the course, okay, you can start to build a picture of what the course is telling you now by putting all the information into these different levels. Everybody can do this. Because these are just symbols. Remember what Jesus says in the course. Words are symbols of symbols twice removed from reality. So when you look at the word, which is, say, the Holy Spirit, this is the symbol of the Holy Spirit. Now you're closer to reality. So when you can get beyond the word into the symbol, you're only one hop away from reality of your true self, your higher self, which is on level 3. Okay. Judgment is another thing that people have to understand how it works. Judgment works on 3 levels. Anybody tell me? Level 1, you have the judgmental mind. Level 2 is the non-judgmental mind. And level 3 is without judgment.
What's the difference between non-judgment and without judgment?
Love.
So non-judgment is just detached without the love, right?
Yes.
All right.
You're detaching from the attachment.
Right.
It's the attachment that's keeping you away from love. So here's your attachments. Okay? When we become non-judgmental, and I'll tell you how to do that now in a second. It's very simple. Once we become non-judgmental, we're detaching now from this level. Okay? Now, what makes us judgmental is this. Is we're always judging what was in this room is in this room. As long as you keep the 2 rooms, you must use judgment. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like Jesus says in the Course, don't judge yourself for judging. Because you're in a world, and you're in duality, so that means you have a choice. So how can you activate your choice if you can't use judgment? Jesus says to use good judgment. Now, good judgment gets us up to here. So what's good judgment? Remember, everybody in the world and everything in the world, you have put in one of these 2 rooms. Alright? Good judgment or non-judgment is now where you don't pick a side. That's how simple this is. It's the middle way. You do things in the world, you're in relationships, but now you don't condemn anybody in those relationships. It's like this. Let's say, just for example, Sandy, I see you doing something wrong. Okay? My natural reaction is to stick you into the bedroom. I'm aware of that now. I'm going, oh, hold on a minute here. I have to observe who I'm putting in these rooms. I've just put this person into that room. You have to correct that. And that correction takes you to here. When you don't correct it, you're back down here again. You can't put somebody into this room without you getting into it yourself.
So just by being aware of that, by saying, okay, I'm putting this, this person did something wrong, but I also realize that the reason I'm putting them in that room is because I'm judging that inside myself.
Yeah, you want to be in this room.
Right.
You want to be special.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the reason why we basically put guilt onto people. Because it makes us better than them. That means we're more special. That's the motivation behind this. You're not just going around, seeing guilt in people for the sake of it. Okay? We have an agenda behind us every time we see somebody doing something wrong and we react to it. We have an agenda. And the agenda is always, I want to feel good about myself. And the only way that I can feel good about myself is by condemning you. Okay? So, when you have to become aware of these 2 rooms, the symbols of these 2 rooms, what you're doing with these 2 rooms, okay, and then look upon you, even driving the car. You know what I mean? Like, somebody who's probably you're in a hurry and somebody's going very slow or maybe whatever. Just look what room you put that person into. We're doing this continually all the time. As long as we keep giving attention to these 2 rooms. So what happens is once you become aware of what you're doing, you simply won't do it as much. And the more aware you become when you're doing it, it's that awareness that basically nullifies it. It has no effect on you now. Okay? So being non-judgmental is now you do things in the world, but you're not attached to the outcome. Here, you're attached to every outcome. You're doing something and you want it to be a success. You're doing the course and you want to wake up. You have to let that go. Okay? And the way that you let it go now, now the way that I wake up, I have to detach from this level. Okay, so you become non-judgmental. Right? This level, being without judgment. Someone asked the Dalai Lama, what is love? And the Dalai Lama said, it's the absence of judgment. In the Course, Jesus says the exact same thing. Love is the absence of judgment. Love only exists in the complete or the whole, where everybody is equal. There's no right or wrong, there's no good or bad, there's no guilty or innocent. Okay? We're all innocent. There's no duality at this level in your heart. Everybody's the same. That's what love is in this world. And it's not until you treat everybody the same, see everybody the same, that you experience that love. You can't love somebody. Why?
Because there's no one there to love.
That's a good answer. But why?
You're
Because
separate.
as long as you see people, there's somebody there to love. Don't deny what you see. So why can't we love somebody?
Because then we're making them special.
Yes. And as long as you make someone feel special, you're actually projecting your guilt onto that person also.
Your guilt?
Yes.
How does that work?
Because you can't see someone as special, all right? You can't separate someone and not see them separate. And guilt is an effect of separation. Sin. So that's why the ego thought system was built upon guilt, sin, and fear. Sorry, sin, guilt, and fear. So guilt is the effect of sin, and fear is the effect of guilt. Because once we feel guilty, we have the fear of punishment now.
It all sounds too abstract for me. I still don't quite see how making someone special has to do with guilt. It seems too many steps away.
Well, what you're doing is you can't separate and divide anybody, okay, without making them feel special. And why would we do that? What's the motivation? We motivate two things. There's guilt and there's specialness. We make people special because we want to love them, yeah? Or we make people special because we want to hate them. So specialness is basically in both camps, yeah? You're making the person special whether it's love or hate, yeah? But the love, in the Course it says this beautiful line, there's no love in this world without ambivalence. That's a big sweeping statement to make.
What does that mean?
It means there's no love in this world without love-hate.
Oh, I see.
So the way love works in this world is this. I will love you provided that you love me just the way that I have this set up.
Mm-hmm.
And that means if you fulfill all my needs, my expectations, my demands, and my desires, I will love you. But when you don't, then I will hate you.
So it's a contract.
It's a contract.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't have, basically another way of saying it, it's conditional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's two loves. There's unconditional love and there's conditional love.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be a wee bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So love at this level, right, is split into many levels.
Mm-hmm.
We have love for our parents. We have love for our children. We have love for our friends. All different types of love, isn't it?
Yeah.
Alright? Is that true?
On that level.
Yeah, on that level you're right. But is it true from this level?
Well, it's not unconditional, universal love.
No.
It's partial.
Yeah. So partial love is not love. So that's why you can't love somebody. Once you make anybody unique and special, you're making yourself unique and special. Whether it's good or bad, you're making that person. Okay? Because it's always about making yourself special. Let's say, for example, this is a special person. Okay, you like them, maybe they're good looking, they're intelligent, maybe they support you, maybe all these things. So you want to be attached to that person, so you make them special. You're special. Alright? That's one side of the coin. Let's look at the other side of the coin. Now you see the guilt in someone. The effect's still the same for you. You're better than this person now because that person's guilty. So that still makes you special. You see the irony in all this? Yeah? The ultimate motivation in all of this for us to do this is basically to enhance our own persona and to make ourselves special. And how I perceive you, basically at this level, is either you're going to be very special in this room with me, or you're going to be hated and you're going to do this room. But either way, I'm doing it because I want to be in this room. Good room. So, yeah?
I have a question
Go ahead.
about special.
It's a special question.
Okay, this is where I kind of get hung up.
Right.
Okay, as an example, let's say I love Roy as a really good friend.
Mm-hmm.
I can love all men,
Mm-hmm.
feel unconditional love for all men,
Mm-hmm.
but yet my relationship with Roy is different than with all men.
Mm-hmm.
My children, I can love all children, but yet my relationship with my children is different than it is with all the other children in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that special?
Mm-hmm. And how does that make you feel?
It doesn't make me feel anyway. It's just
Do you not get
it's
do you
different
not get a glow inside you from your grandchildren?
from my grandchildren.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. That's specialness.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know that, but I'm not.
See, the only-
I'm speaking more theoretically.
Yeah. See, all you have to do really doing this is become aware of where you're placing your specialness and your guilt. That awareness itself is what does the trick here.
Just the awareness.
Well,
Just,
that's the first step.
yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're not aware, do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what else you
Yeah,
do.
Right, right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, awareness is the key here. So then it's always the awareness and then the correction. You see, they're only thoughts at the end of the day. And all thoughts must be corrected at some level. So the thoughts at this level here, in level 1, have to be corrected. The only way that you're going to stay up here is to see the truth down here. If you don't see the truth in this, there's no way you can stay here. And once you're able to see the ultimate truth here, looking down from here, then automatically you go up there. That's it.
So your relationship with all of your students is the same. None of them are different. They are all the same.
I have a rule when it comes to students, and I've kept it for the last 7 years, is I never phone anybody up to see how they're getting on.
Does that mean you don't have any friends?
You can look at it that way too if you can. Because I know the journey they're on. And I want, you know, a big part of doing this is one of the, it's nearly the same for everybody. Everybody says, I was going to ring you, I was going to contact you, but then you're too busy. And I say, that's always the ego saying that I'm too busy. By you making a decision to come and ask me for help, right, that's a choice. And when I go to you to see how you're doing, I'm taking that choice away from you. So I have a rule, but if you try, I'll let you work it out as much as you can, and if you need help, come to me. But even, you know, if you can't work it out, and you making the choice to come to me, that's a big leap.
Yeah, but if someone makes a choice to come to you, then they're taking...
Responsibility. And that's what we're
Well,
all
don't-
asked to do.
Yeah, but I think I know what Diane's saying. Aren't they? No, to me, maybe I'm not saying that. Maybe she's not thinking this, but if they come to you, aren't they kind of like not taking responsibility?
No, but you see, if you can't work something out,
Right.
you know, and if you have something bothering you and you don't do anything about it,
Yeah.
what's going to happen? It's going to itch you and itch you and itch you. It's going to drive you crazy at the end of the day.
Right.
And that's what a lot of people in the world are doing. Like, you know, they're sitting in this mindset, right? And they're not happy, and they're listening to their ego, and their ego's driving them crazy, and they're doing nothing about it. There are other people, and they're doing something about it. So everybody that's doing the course, what I'm saying to you is, I don't separate any of my students in any way because I don't fall into the trap of making the first step to contact any of them.
Okay, let me use another example. Let's look at Eckhart Tolle.
Right.
Okay, he has a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right. He might have unconditional love for all women, but yet he's in a relation with a specific woman, and that relationship is different than his relationship with all the other women in the
Of
world.
course. Of course. Why should it be any different?
So then is his girlfriend special to him?
Huh?
So is his girlfriend special to him?
Right. You see, what you're doing here, you're setting Eckhart Tolle to be different from you.
Well, Adyashanti, you,
but-
Gloria.
Yeah. Right. The way this works is right. And I'm sure this is the same for Eckhart Tolle. All right. There's me as the teacher. There's me as the writer with the work that I'm doing and everything. That's my higher self. And I can connect in there, and that's what I do when I'm teaching and all of this. I'm connected to source. Then there's me that gets up in the morning and does my emails and does the work on the website and does all of this work. This is my personality. This is my separated self. So I have the part of me that's living in the world and doing things in the world, and I have the part of me then that's connected to source. So it's about the balance then between these two energies, the balance between these two selves. As long as you're here in the world, you need your personality. And the personality is going to, be the same as every other personality. You're going to see someone, you're going to like them, you're going to get on with them, you'll have a relationship. Doesn't mean that you're making that person special or different than everybody else. You're doing the same thing. Of course you're seeing the person different, okay? But you're correcting that all the time.
But it is different.
Of course, but what you're doing is
That's
you're
all I'm trying to say. It is different.
Yeah, but so what?
And it doesn't have to be good or bad, it's just different.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, that's what
Absolutely nothing wrong with
trying
that.
to get at.
There's nothing wrong with you making Roy a more special friend than someone else, as long as you just know we're all special.
Right.
There's no difference than Eckhart Tolle going out with this girl. We're all special.
Okay, that's
So
what,
are your children special to you?
To me, very special to me.
So-
But so are you, Roy. Do you know what I mean? Like
It's a
I
different
correct.
type of special.
Yes, but what I do with this, it's easy just saying this or your children's specialty and so on. Right? You have to demonstrate this at the end of the day. With my children, right, I have no demands, no needs, no expectations, or no desires. They're free to live their life. And I will back them no matter what choices they make.
Mhm.
To me, that's unconditional love.
Mhm.
Specialness, whether you call that specialness or anything else, I actually, a lot of parents try to live a second life through their children.
Mhm.
They disempower the child. I want you to be a scientist. I want you to be a doctor. I want you to be this. Totally, and then the child basically, they send them to an expensive college and all of this, and now the child's guilted into living this life where they haven't had the freedom to express themselves.
Mhm.
So, in my experience, I want my children to express themselves, and I'll back them 100%.
Are they more special to you than other children?
No, because I correct that thought. That's only a thought
Mhm.
at the end of the day. And it's like the thought that Sandy was having or the thought that Diane's having. You're
so
correcting.
it's not a feeling.
Of course. How do you mean?
You said it's only a thought that you correct.
Yeah.
So therefore it's not a feeling.
Of course it's a feeling. Because I'll tell you why. Everything's cause and effect, remember. So you have thoughts. Okay? Thoughts produce emotions. And emotions produce actions. Okay? So everything's connected. So every emotion that you have is still coming from a thought. Every thought that you have produces an emotion at some level. So all our thoughts, the thought of my children, the thought of children produces a very positive, loving emotion. Well, for most people, So it's not about not making people special. It's about making people special, but also correcting that individual specialness by including everybody.
Well, I think, for me personally, I like, I don't know what I'm trying to say right now, but I'll just say it. When I think of a special relationship, to me, I think of a special relationship is, like you mentioned earlier, someone that I want to fulfill my needs, my desires, etc., etc., etc. But I have no needs or desires that I want Roy to fulfill, or that I want Sandy to fulfill, or that I want my children to fulfill.
How about the word uniqueness? So your kids are maybe not any special from other kids, but you have a unique relationship with them.
Yeah, we all have. We all have. You see, one of the guidance that I got from above was this, that we're here to express in our individuality and to experience our individuality, but to remember our content is spirit and one. So it's not about us all coming here to be the same, act the same, to do the same things. The whole point of, and we're going to get into it now when we start the metaphysics, all right, the whole point of this is for us to have experiences that are separate, that are unique, that are individual. There's nothing wrong with any of those. Nothing wrong with them whatsoever. And there's nothing wrong with making anybody in this world unique, special, or individual, as long as you're aware of the truth that behind it all, that we're all here to have these experiences. And it doesn't make them right or wrong or good or bad.
We don't have to attach any significance to them.
No.
We don't have to judge people, basically.
No.
Right.
Drop the judgment.
Just be aware that that's the experience that person wants to live their life. And this is the way this person wants to live their life. And as long as it's not harming other people or breaking the law and things like this here, then everybody's free to do that. Everybody's free to be whatever religious denomination or spiritual following they want to be. This is all about empowerment for all of us. We all have to make choices, decisions. And it's time, here, we have spent our life making choices here. Okay? This is where we are. Right? We're here. As a personality. Okay? And all we're doing is we're making choices here. This is the illusion of free will. Okay? Free will. Ego's free will is here. Choose between the persona and the shadow. Between the ego right mind and the ego wrong mind. Between all the good things in the world and all the bad things in the world. This is the ego's version of free will. Okay? Free will is between here, here, and here. It's vertical, it's not horizontal. It's horizontal, it's not vertical.
No,
vertical.
You're right.
It's vertical.
You're right.
Okay. It's vertical.
You mean true free will?
Yeah, so true free will is always between the external and the internal. Free will in this world, we always think it's between this thing and that thing. Between this person and that person. That's the illusion of free will. That's the ego's free will. Ego wins in every time that you make a choice for this or that. You feed the ego. Alright? Like I was writing in my book last night. Right? Just imagine this. Imagine you're at war with someone. Alright? Imagine you are then supplying the other person with all their guns, ammunition, and missiles. And you're at war trying to defeat this person. How would you go about defeating that person? I want to see the great generals coming to the fore here.
You
Getting
want
to
to
know your
defeat a
enemy.
person, but yet you're supplying
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah. So how would you end up defeating that person? The art of war.
You have to know your enemy.
So how would you do it? How would you do it right?
Well, if you talk about the art of war, you do it with deception.
No, but I'm saying, I'm giving you the clue here, I'm giving you the answer here. You're actually supplying your enemy with all its ammunition against you.
Well, if you make someone your enemy, then you made them your enemy.
All right, but listen again. All right, Diana's my enemy, and she's fighting against me, and I'm giving her all the ammunition to fight against me. Without the ammunition, she has nothing.
That's insane. So you should take all the ammunition away or quit supplying me with ammunition.
Exactly. Once I stop supplying you ammunition, what happens?
Well, then you can defeat me.
Well, it's not a case of that, but there's no way you can attack me.
All right,
And it's up to me then, what I want to do.
right.
All right? So, that's what we're doing with the ego. We're pulling into these two rooms. Okay? And we're filling up, like a gas tank, the ego all the time.
So the more you strengthen the ego, the more you're giving ammunition to your shadow.
Exactly. And that's what I was saying this morning about giving the attention to these two rooms.
Which is also, the more you make someone your enemy, the more
That's
that's
you.
giving them ammunition.
That's you handing over the ammunition when you start giving attention to these two rooms.
So if you're judging someone and being hostile to them, you're creating an enemy.
Yeah, and you're basically, the ego's sucking you dry. And this is why people are very tired. Jesus says, their constant state of judgments leave you in a state where your mind becomes very weary. Here. Because it doesn't matter which room you're in or which room you put something into, your energy, you're feeding the ego. The ego can't lose. 1-1-1 situation. And here's the trick that a lot of people do in the course fall into. They try to go from here, all right, to here. And they try to take the ego thought system with them.
You don't want to deal with the shadow self.
Yeah. These two cells here, all right, have to be looked at from this place. So, right.
Wait, but then it's not just the shadow, it's also the
That's
persona.
the persona, of course.
Um,
Of course. Both have to be looked at.
Right.
And it's actually easier to look at your shadow than it is your persona.
How is that?
Alright? Because you'll see the guilt and the hate, okay, and you don't want it. But it's not a big deal to let that go. Because you know it's causing you pain. The problem is this.
It's a big deal to feel it.
But here's the thing, people won't let go of the specialness. And you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
hold on to the
Right.
specialness
The
and not
specialness.
feel the guilt
Yeah,
and the fear.
that's true. Yeah,
So you have no problem,
yeah.
letting go of the hate and the guilt because you know it has hurt you. But where people have a big problem is letting go of the specialness.
Yeah.
The specialness will hurt you as much as the guilt will hurt you because both are the same at the end of the day. So let's get on to metaphysics now, okay, and the separation. Now there's three separations. There are three versions of the separation, okay? And we're going to do each version on each level. Okay? So, level 1 first. What's the version of the separation there? I know
It's
you're...
a split between the persona and the ego.
No, I'm talking about the separation from God.
Oh,
Oh.
Mad idea.
Yes, we're getting into the tiny mad idea now.
Is it
Okay?
Adam and Eve?
Huh?
Adam and Eve, another one?
Yeah. So, the story here, okay, this is the world, this is form, this is the body, this is religion. And the story of the separation that occurred at this level was the story of Adam and Eve.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Does anybody not know this story? Brian, do you know it?
yeah.
Yeah, of course. So basically what that story is, once we believe that story of original sin, okay, we have spent a lifetime after a lifetime here suffering. That was God's verdict on us basically betraying and eating from the tree of knowledge. Okay, that we would be here until the end of time, and then whoever was righteous would be selected to go to heaven, and then the rest is going along with me to hell. Okay, because that's the way everybody felt. You know what I mean? Like, we're in an ego thought system, okay? And you're told every Sunday going to church how guilty you are, how sinful you are. How the hell could you feel righteous at the end of the day? So the whole thing was set up, no matter who you were condemned. Because it used to be in Ireland, if you had a bad thought, all right, you had to actually fast for 30 days.
Oh my God.
In some
I would
cases,
starve to death.
exactly.
Yeah.
And we're living in the ego thought system where there's nothing but bad thoughts.
Yeah.
So you can see, the ego won both ways. When you owned up to the bad thought, you got punished. When you didn't own up to the bad thought, you got killed. You were still punished.
Then there's confessions though.
So you have to look at
Thank you.
the Catholic Church and the way it's set up. It's beautiful. Because no matter what happens within it, that the ego wins in every way because we're guilty.
You're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
And the only man to the ego, blasphemy is sinlessness.
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 Right?
Yes, yes. That's blasphemy. And one man came to the planet who was without sin, and the ego killed him for it, because it was blasphemy. That was Jesus. So, in the ego thought system, at this level, you're guilty. Period. Because that's the separation that happened. That's the story. This is the fall of man. Okay? We were tempted to eat the apple, we ate the apple. So, what happens in the course, from that story, we move to level 2. Just on this one, right, 2,000 years ago, Jesus corrected this one. And you know the parable? The lost son.
Oh, the prodigal son.
Prodigal son. Or
Yeah.
the lost son.
Yeah.
Either one. So with this story told that we basically made God angry and God condemned us to a life of suffering. He kicked us out of heaven, in other words. So in the story of the prodigal son, Jesus turns the whole thing around and says, no, you made a decision, you made a choice to leave.
Right.
You asked your father for your inheritance, and you went away and you squandered it. And you ended up in poverty in this world. And then you had a thought, okay, at least I was better off in my father's palace, you know, as one of the servants. And you went home. And the moment you come home, the father opened his arms and threw a big feast. So he turned the whole thing around from one of guilt, one you have done something wrong, to one that you haven't done anything wrong. It was a choice that you made. So he corrected that 2,000 years ago, at this level. And then it corrected in the course. Alright? Now, the reason why it has this one in the tiny mad idea in the course is the correction for this level. So let's do the tiny mad idea. Okay? Here, God, heaven. So it was God and us as one. Okay? So what seemed to happen then, okay? Diana, what's your interpretation
What?
of what happened at this point? Of the tiny mad idea?
I don't believe it.
No, but tell me what you don't believe.
I don't believe that within the oneness, within the allness, that a tiny mad idea could even occur.
Of course.
That
All right.
doesn't even make sense to me.
Right. So in this, and this is the state of oneness, complete oneness. All right, and in this state of oneness, now remember the story that's in the course that Jesus is telling is the ego story. And it's here to correct this version. Okay, but it's still coming from the ego. It's not the ultimate truth. So we need to correct this version at this level. We can't go to this level. All right? So, basically what happened was all was one, and into eternity crept a tiny mad idea. And the tiny mad idea was this, Roy. It was that we could be separate. That the Son of God could be separate.
You're saying we are the Son of God?
Yes. Every one of us.
Okay.
Everything that you see in this world, every plant, every animal, every bird, every fish, every rock, every stone, every chair, every table is Christ.
So everything is an expression of the one.
Yes, the one Son. Okay? Or us as the creation of awareness. Now, in the Course, Jesus uses symbols. And the reason why he uses God and Christ at this level and in the West is because of this version in the Bible. So he's meeting people where they're at. People are very attached to God, to Christ, to the Holy Spirit, to Jesus. Okay? And he doesn't want basically to take that away from people because there's 2 billion people here just in the Christian religion alone. And they're all very attached to these symbols. So in the Course, Jesus didn't want to take away these symbols from anybody, so he's basically put them in here, but he has also other symbols in the Course for these 2. Anybody give me another 2 for these?
You mean another symbol for
For God and Christ.
love?
Well, that unifies both. But what we're talking about here is the 2 symbols for each.
Creator and creative?
Yeah. Creator would be one. What's another one? My personal favorites here are this. It's the closest to my experience. God is awareness.
Oh.
And Christ is being, the state of being. We have always lived in a state of being. But we've never lived in a state of awareness. But we'll come back to that later. Okay, so here we are at one, and the tiny mad idea comes in that we could be separate. Okay, and we believed the tiny mad idea. We actually confronted God with the tiny mad idea, and we made a judgment on God. And what does judgment do at the end of the day? Every time we make a judgment on something,
Separate.
yeah, but what is it? You reject it. So the judgment that we placed in God basically was the cause and effect what happened next. Because once we rejected God and awareness, we catapulted ourselves into here, a state of separation. Okay? This is us as one. So everything in this universe, this physical universe, basically has origins here as one. Because all that we're doing is we're changing form all the time. We're energy. And there's nothing that truly lives here, and there's nothing that truly dies here. It's energy that's taking form, and then losing that form, and then taking other forms. I.e., like when the body dies. What happens to the body? It goes back into the ground. Maybe it takes the form of a tree. It takes the form of grass. Whatever. So everything's basically being recycled here over and over again. And it's consciousness that brings our awareness into this. Okay? So here we separated as one. Now, the difference between here and here is this. It's night and day, literally. Right? This is pure light. This is pure darkness. And I forget what did you call that, Roy, earlier on we were talking about when you go into the void where there's nothingness?
Samadhi.
Samadhi. Right. Well, this would be the samadhi. There's nothing here. There's no personality. There's no universes. There's no form of any description, and there's no light.
So it's
The
nothing.
void, that's the void.
This
This
is
is nothing.
infinite.
This is the void is what our awareness was. See, this is our true self, and it's never left here. Okay, this is our beginnings and birth of our false self, and it's nothing. There's no attachment. It doesn't have a body. Okay, doesn't have any senses. Doesn't have a world to live in even. It seems to be outside of what heaven is. Seems to be. Okay? So there's nothing here. And this is what our awareness is. And this is terrifying for us. You imagine taking a little baby and taking it out of your nice comfortable home and taking it and putting it in a cold, dark cave somewhere that's miserable and really cold and dark. How would that child feel?
You would die.
Terrifying.
You're
terrified.
terrified, yeah, it would
Yes.
probably, the body would die.
Well, that was us here without the body. To leave everything and to enter into nothing. Just imagine how terrifying that was. And that's where Jesus says what happened was the sin in the Course, or the sin in religion, you could replace it with separation. It was the desire to be separate. That's the original sin. It's my wish to be separate. So it's not that we did anything wrong in God, it was just our desire to be special, our desire to be unique, our desire to experience something other than what heaven was. So what we did, we ended up here with nothing. So the sin, this is the birth of the original sin. Okay? And we felt very, very separate. But something else happened at this moment in time. This is the birth of perception. And that means it's the birth of the ego. And we started to hear one voice, and one voice only now very loudly. And that voice was the ego. And you imagine we're a terrified child, we don't know what's going on, and all of a sudden the ego starts to tell us a story. And the story is that we basically crucified God, we annihilated heaven, we destroyed heaven, and now how does that make you feel?
Guilty.
Guilt.
But where did the ego come from?
The ego is perception. It's a
But
thought.
there was just nothingness.
Yeah?
There was a void, nothingness, darkness. So how did the thought come in there?
Because the ego is everything that heaven is not. Okay? Can you imagine that? I'll answer that question in the next one. All right? But at the moment here, we're going through the birthplace. We're doing this second separation. You know the one that doesn't make sense to you? All right? So we're doing it, and we're doing it to see why it doesn't make sense. All right? So then, the natural effect of guilt is, anytime that you feel guilty about something, you're always in fear of punishment. So let's say somebody robbed a bank, that was the sin, they're feeling guilty now about it because it was all these people's money, say, and now they're in fear of being caught for this horrible crime. So sin, guilt, and fear is born. So the voice, the only voice we're listening to at this stage. Now remember, I'm only telling you a story here. All right? You know, and the story's all made up, as we all know. So what happens is we're listening to the ego, and the ego convinces us. Jesus says at this point, it wasn't until guilt, we accepted guilt into our minds, that the separation became real. So once guilt came onto the scene, and we accepted that, we believed the ego story, then everything else happened as cause and effect. Okay, so we had a choice at this moment, that's why I put that red. At that moment. And it's the same every time that you have a thought of guilt about something and you don't do anything with it. What you're doing is this. Okay, you believe those thoughts of guilt that you have, that they're going to take you into hell. In your awareness, you could be in a really good spot, and all of a sudden you have one thought about guilt that you did to somebody, and you don't do anything with that guilt. You believe it. All of a sudden you'll be sitting in a bad mood for the rest of the day or the rest of the night. You mightn't sleep, you mightn't do this. Why? Because that thought took you down into hell. So we believed that thought at this level. And then we felt immense fear. So we turn to the ego and we say, I don't like this, I don't want this, what can we do? And this is the story that I'm narrating, is the story that Ken Wapnick narrated. So the ego says, remember, it's cause and effect, so there's no real conversation between us and the ego. This is all taking place in cause and effect. The story is just to give you some substance to, we need to kind of hear stories of how we got from one place to another place. So this is just a story. So what happens next, the ego says, I'll take care of this feeling that you have, this sense of sin and guilt that you have. I'll take care of it. And the way the ego does that is this. We separate, we go back to sleep, and now we split into two. Okay? What's the two that we split into?
Shadow and the persona.
Shadow and persona. That's the way. This was the birth of Homo sapiens. Okay? This is where the thought came from. Okay? The only way that we can get rid of the darkness, right, is to create a second entity, a second room. And now we get rid of the guilt and the sin in here. But I loved it when Ken said this. And Ken says, and then we turn around and said, what about the fear? Because what we do with projection, this is the birth of projection here. Okay? Because what we do is we take the sin and the guilt from us and we project it, put it into the borrowed room, and you can't do that and not escape the fear in the good room. You can't place guilt onto anyone and escape fear in yourself. Okay? So as long as you keep putting people into the guilt, into the bad room, through guilt or sin, okay, you cannot escape fear in the good room. And there's some very, very frightened people around. Okay? So now, this is our journey here. We perceive ourselves to be good and to be innocent, and all of a sudden now. So we look at this story in the Bible also. Who are these two in the Bible?
Cain and Abel?
No, Adam and Eve.
Adam.
Oh.
Adam eats the apple. All right, God comes to him. And God says, Adam, what did you eat the apple for? And God says, or Adam says, it wasn't me.
It was
Eve told me to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
What he did was he
Coward.
projected the guilt onto Eve. All right? Pointed the finger. And that's what we do. Every time we point the finger at somebody, we're projecting our guilt onto them. And we say, God, it wasn't me, it was Eve.
Didn't Eve point the finger
Yeah,
at the
you just
serpent?
took the words out of my mouth. Alright, God goes to Eve. Eve, woman, what did you do that to my favourite son for? And then Eve turns around and says, it wasn't me, the serpent told me to do it. See, the thing with me about projection is this. Alright, it only works if there's a lot of people. Alright? Here, there's only two, and the ego knows this. Alright? And remember, here, here, and here is still the mind. Nothing's happened yet. These are all thoughts that are being born. Here you have the thought of the personality, separate itself. Here you have now the persona in the shadow that's inside this. Remember, there's nothing here as a void. And what happens is this now starts to emerge as like eggs hatching inside. So you could say this is the egg, and this is what's hatching inside the egg. But the ego has one more card to play. Anybody tell me what it is?
Oh, yeah.
Fragmentation.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens now, you see, at this moment, we could have turned around and changed our minds. Okay? At this moment here, right, let's say there's only the two of us. I'm projecting on to Gloria. Gloria's projecting on to me. I'm projecting back on. You know, projection works. You give it to me, I'll give it to somebody else. Now, that's like a game of ping pong that you're going to play to eternity with somebody. You get fed up and go, let's go home. You know what I mean? Like, the ego doesn't want that. So what the ego does next is introduce fragmentation. Remember, this is all cause and effect. So what happens is this cell now is fragmented into billions and billions and billions. Okay? And inside each of these, you have this. This is inside each cell here. Every cell has a persona and a shadow. Every one of them. So everybody from this moment on that's born is going to be born with these two rooms in their minds. Okay? With us so far? And the next part that happens then is here is the Big Bang. $14 billion years ago. And what happened at the Big Bang was this coming into form here. You were the Big Bang. When the Big Bang occurred, that was us exploding, right, into fragmentation here. The Big Bang was this here exploding into this here now into form. Remember, this is content. This all occurred in the mind. And these thoughts that occurred in the mind now manifest into form at the Big Bang. And what happens is we're born with a body okay? And every one of these now come into our awareness. Okay? So you can see this is the blueprint for mankind. This is the blueprint for the separated self. These were the thoughts that were created in the mind, coming from the wish to be separate. And here they end up in a body, in a world, everything that we have created. So that's the second version. Okay? Of the separation. That's at this level. There's another version of the separation. Do you want to see it?
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
Almost 3, 10 to 3.
Just want to be break for 10 minutes after this?
Yeah.
Let's just stretch your legs. Okay, on this version, remember the second version about the guilt. The sin, the guilt, the fear, everything is coming from the Bible story here. So it's natural for Jesus to introduce that and to correct it. Okay? At this level. But you want to get to level 3. Okay? And level 3 is beyond guilt. There's no guilt at level 3. So that means at some stage in your journey, you're going to have to let go of the story that's in the Course and grab onto the other story that's in the Course. Okay? And this story is a completely different story. And it's all about which story do you want to believe. Okay? And this story, I don't have God or Christ, I have awareness and being. And you'll have read these two symbols in the Course many, many times. Okay? They're the exact same as God and God's Son, or God and Christ. So it's important, first of all, to understand what a state of awareness is. At the very beginning, okay, I'm going to attempt this right? So go easy with me, right? Because this is impossible. Because what I want for me to demonstrate this, I have to bring form into formlessness. You know, how are you going to experience or kind of teach what is formless if you don't put form into it? So what happened is this. I'm going to take you back before the tiny mad idea, back to the very beginning where we can go. So at the very beginning, you can say, just pretend for a moment that this is everything. There's nothing else. Absolutely nothing else. And that is a state of being. Okay? And in that state of being is becoming aware. Yeah? Why are you looking at me like that?
Like what?
You could say that this is God
Right.
becoming aware. And this has always existed. And before people come to me and start saying, oh, well, you know, there was no beginning of all of this, we have to do this. We have to bring form into this to show this, because it's so abstract, you know, that a lot of people won't get this unless you bring some form of form, because we work in form, we look in form, we read in form, we see everything in form. So basically what this is, this was a state of being. All right? And that state of being then, okay, and there's no time in heaven, it's timelessness, but heaven is creation. So that means even though it's in a timeless state, cause and effect is still working in heaven. Yeah? So this state of being is everything there ever was. It always existed. And that state of being then became awareness. Yeah? And what happened with that state of being? It started to extend itself. Okay? Because that's what Jesus says heaven is. It's one line of continuous extension. And it's the extension of love. So let's look at this. So this is the new extension of heaven. Okay? What do you call that? Being.
Light?
Being. Okay?
You have being on the inside and being on the outside?
When it became aware, he crossed off being.
Oh, you
Yeah.
crossed it out, that's why I
Yeah.
can't read it, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like this, right? Here you have awareness, and here you have a state of being. Okay? Now remember again, I'm bringing form into this.
What's the difference between awareness and being, though?
Right? We have always been in a state of being, but we have never been aware.
Okay.
We were in heaven, but we never knew we were in
So
heaven.
sort of unconscious being.
Yes, it's not unconscious, it's non-conscious.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay? All right. So it's like the fish in the globe, in the water. Doesn't know it's in the water.
Mm-hmm.
We were in heaven, in a state of bliss, but we never were aware of it. Okay? But that's the key. We're now becoming aware of this. We're wakening up. So we have a contract here with awareness, i.e. God. We were given the choice, do we want to wake up? And we went, of course we want to wake up. Remember, this is out of our awareness at this level. So, that was the key to everything that happens after that. Because Jesus says this in the Course. He says, if you woke up in heaven, you would always had one thought. And the one thought was, what else is there? So that's the route that we chose to wake up. We had to literally, because this is state of oneness. Everything here is one. So the only way that we could wake up, we couldn't wake up in a state of oneness. We had to know ourselves. And the only way that we could know ourselves was to break away and lose the state of bliss, lose the state of being.
But who's the we?
I, the one.
Who's the I? There's only oneness.
The state of being. Even though there's oneness, inside that oneness, there's different states, you could call it, as Jesus says. You know, you have God and Christ, creator and created. The one thing that we have to learn here is that we're not God. That's the biggest lesson we have to learn here, because everything inside us is telling us that we are God.
Up there.
Up there.
So it's the state of being that wanted to wake up,
Yes. So yeah.
have awareness.
Yes.
It's like
Okay,
God's
so,
extension or creation.
Let's say if the state of being here woke up in heaven, and everything inside us is awareness, what would we have thought? Everything inside us was God, say. We would have literally thought we were God. And the story then picks up, Jesus takes up the story, what would have happened with this story. We would have confronted God. We would have wanted to take the throne, because we would have believed we're God and God's an imposter. Because we're all one. And there's nothing inside us that's not of God. Okay, so we had to learn to know ourselves first. Because if we didn't, if we had woke up here at this level, all right, we would have felt like we're in a prison.
You mean the one mind?
Yes.
So there would be some confusion up there.
Yes.
There was no we, there was just one.
Exactly. But like I say to you, I'm talking, we're talking at this level.
Yeah.
So, that's why I say we. When you get up to the higher levels, you can go back to, there's no we. So, really what this is about is, Jesus says in the Course, what is the ego? And this should be the clearest signal of all about this story and about this story. It says the ego is a device. Okay? It doesn't say the ego is an entity or a monster or all of these things. It does at this level because that's what we believe. The reason why, Jesus talks about the ego, it talks about the ego the same way as the devil. Alright? Now, religion invented the devil to make you believe the problem was outside you. What Jesus says about the ego, the problem is inside you.
Unless you're possessed by the ego.
Yeah, and he talks like that. He does talk like that. At this level, on level 1 of the Course, he talks like the ego is the devil.
Get these side needs.
But later on, when he's at this level here, the ego is a device. So it's like a car. You get into your car now, you go home. So the car takes you from one place to the other. That's what the whole ego thought system is. It's a device, it's a vehicle that brings you down in here so you can wake up here, here, and now you know for sure you're not God.
So in a sense, from the God's perspective, you could say that God was awareness, but God was not self-aware. For God to be self-aware, he or she had to create an ego, the feeling separate, then to rediscover himself. So now God becomes self-aware within the awareness, as a way of putting it.
Right. I like what you said. All right. So it's like God went from the state of being into awareness. Okay? So already he's made this journey. This is not God replaying the same journey. I know that for a fact.
Not God, what?
This is not God. I know there's a book, Conversations with God.
Yeah.
And basically
Right.
what it is this is God experiencing
Right.
himself here. Now, a person asked that question in Dublin about 2 years ago, and I was channeling at the time, and he got a swift answer back again, and I knew it didn't come from me. All right, and the answer back was, why the hell should we have to fucking suffer so God can experience himself? What type of God makes that? Think about it for a second.
Yeah.
This is what people are thinking. Why the fuck should I suffer so he has to experience? So, we're projecting onto God the same as religion did. You know what I mean? Like,
But if everything is God, then there's really no one suffering but God, supposedly.
everything is God here. Okay? Everything here now is God and God's Son. Because here's the interesting fact that happens then. Right? Just look at this. This was being that became aware. This is being that's now becoming aware. This is us. Yeah? And what's happening? What is the other characters that Jesus talks about in heaven? Our creations. We're extending also. And our extension is called in the Course our creations. And our creations will be being, and then will be awareness. We're becoming one. We're going to be in heaven, and we're going to know we're in heaven. We're not only going to be in heaven creating, we're not only going to be in heaven, but we're going to be in heaven creating.
So in order to become awareness, we had to through the ego
know
self.
ourselves.
Yeah, through the ego self.
Yeah.
We had to experience the 3D, the third dimension,
Mm-hmm.
duality, suffering, and all that in order to work our way back up into awareness.
Yes.
But this, when we return, we will be a being with awareness.
Yes. God is a being. God lives in a state of being, state of bliss, is fully aware. We lived in a state of being, but we're unaware.
Right.
We're moving into awareness now. So we'll be in being, but have awareness of that. In other words,
We'll be like God.
yes.
That should be
Another way
interesting.
I described this in the teacher's course I did last year in Dublin was, imagine a big airplane, all right? And God's the pilot. And we're all in the back seat. All right? We're all sleeping in the back. All right? And God has one seat up beside him. One seat. So we're all waking up in the back. And we can only take that seat as one.
You can only take that seat
As one.
as one.
And when we take that seat, any individual can get up in the back and become one with anybody else and walk in and sit in that seat. But you can't do so until you're one with everybody that's in the passenger, which is basically all of us.
So we'll be a co-creator with God?
Yes. You're told that in the course. We are co-creators with God now. So here's the key. The other key to this is perception. Creation. Okay? Heaven here is a state of creation. What Jesus says in the course, this world is miscreation. Here is love. Here is what love is
Here.
not.
Yeah.
Here is where true happiness and peace is. Here is where manufactured happiness and peace is. Okay? So, here's the key. We had to believe that we were separate to know ourselves, become one with ourselves. So, it's like the baby. Okay, in the womb. The only way inside the womb, the baby is one with you. The baby doesn't know you. The baby doesn't know it's in a womb. It's totally in a state
Being
of...
without awareness.
Yes. So how does the baby get awareness? It
Being one.
separates.
Separate, right.
And then it's sent to school and is taught, you're who you are, I'm your mother, this is your father, this is your environment, this is school, this is this. The child learns, but the child can only learn through separation. Once the child is at one with you inside, the child can't be taught anything. The child has no identity, because it's one with you. But the child is not you. Okay? Put this scenario into the same scenario of heaven.
So, how did God know himself?
Now, I mean, it's taken a lot for me to get this far. I mean, that there is something that I have never taught before. That's only came in the last week or 2 weeks, like to me, So you're even taking me back into a question there. I can't answer that and won't even attempt to answer that. But ultimately in this, right, this is the way that you can perceive the separation to deal with this. All right, I'm going to there's 2 ways you can deal with this. Here, the same situation happens, projection comes in, fragmentation comes in, and then the Big Bang and the body. Okay? Okay? So, the difference between these 2 stories here is what?
Night and day.
One is guilt. Right, we'll take a break for 10 minutes, and we'll come back and we'll finish the story off then. We've done the 2 versions of the separation. We've done 3 versions of the separation, okay? There's the Bible story, there's the story of sin, guilt, and fear, and then there's the story that basically, we're here, that it's not that we did something wrong, we haven't committed any sins, there is no guilt. So you can continue to do the story of sin, guilt, and fear for as long as you want. But ultimately, you're going to have to move to this level here, level 3, if you want to wake up. And that means you have to let go of the story of sin, guilt, and fear, and that you have done something wrong. And the best evidence in the Course to tell us that is this. Jesus says that to the ego, to undo it, means to destroy it. So you can see how many people in the world are trying to undo the ego. There's websites up about undoing the ego. There's basically retreats about undoing the ego. So to the ego, to undo it means to destroy it. Jesus says you can't destroy it because it's a part of you. It's a thought that belongs to you. It has to be reinterpreted. So that means we have to reinterpret the whole philosophy and story of sin, guilt, and fear. So if there's only 2 emotions, one is love and one is fear. Alright? And the ego at this level and this level is one of fear. Then at this level it has to be one of love. So we have to reinterpret. And the way that we reinterpret the ego is we reinterpret the ego story. It's all made up. Jesus says throughout the Course, you're not your ego. Okay? He doesn't say in that same sentence, what he should have said was you're your separated self in the ego thought system. He didn't make anything very easy in the Course for people to understand. Okay? So we're not the ego. Okay? The ego is a device, and it's a device that basically is a vehicle that's bringing us down here so we can waken up. So, here's the key to wakening up. You know samsara? Okay? Samsara is the cycle of reincarnation, of life and birth. Okay? Of death and birth. So, we're here in the body at this level, and what happens is we go in to the spiritual universe, we go into the vortex, into the spiral that takes us back into the spiritual universe. Here, what we do, depending on how well we get on with our lessons here, but when we go back in there, if we're still carrying any sense of guilt or fear within us, what happens is we come back in to another lifetime. Here's the key. You can't let the guilt go here. It can only be let go here. This is the dumping ground. So whatever story that you're going to buy into, if you're buying into the story of sin, guilt, and fear, then you must leave the guilt and the fear here, and the sense of sin. Because if you keep taking those attachments with you to here, then you keep coming back. And this is what we've been doing for many, many lifetimes. We're in this cycle. So we have to detach from this entire world here. If we do it this way. This is the second way. So if you're doing forgiveness lessons through sin, guilt, and fear, right? Here's how it works. The guilt that I see in you is my guilt. Okay? It's all about the story. Isn't it? It's all about the story of sin, guilt, and fear. Alright, so we're going around and we're delving into our past. Oh, this is what I did in my past. This is what I'm guilty of here. This is what I'm guilty of there. That's what I'm guilty of there. What kind of a life are you going to have? Okay? That's one way of doing this, doing your forgiveness lesson. Because what you're doing is you're basically observing your reactions to everybody around you. It's a long drawn-out process to do the course that way, but you can't do it that way. People who are attached to religion will do it that way. That's okay. But then if you don't want to buy into the sin, guilt, and fear part of it, you can do it through awareness and being. And that means now that all it means is detachment. Okay? What you're doing is you're detaching from your special relationships. Okay? You're detaching from the ego thought system. It becomes a much simpler process. Anything now that pisses you off or annoys you, you're attached to it. So you don't have to go into the story about, oh, you know, this is the guilt that I put onto you because this is what I did to God. You know, or this is what I'm doing to you because this is what the ego did to me. You know, from my perspective, how I look at all of this now, I came here to waken up. Okay? I detached from that awakening up, and I'm here to be of service to help other people to go through that. Okay? I don't buy into there is no sin, guilt, and fear. Okay? The story is completely made up. The tiny mad idea occurred within the dream. Okay? The tiny mad idea didn't happen, and then something happened. Alright? The whole thing is made up. We have never been awake. And it's just like in the morning before we wake up, we start to dream. And that's all we're doing now. We're using this dream to waken up in Him. It's that simple. So, what keeps bringing you back here over and over again is your belief that you're separate from everybody around you. It's not that you believe you're separate from God. It's you believe that we're all separate down here. That what happens to you has nothing to do with me. What happens to Roy has nothing to do with you, and so on. We lead lives of separateness. So, that brings us to this, the meaning of life. The meaning of life is this. The first one is we are here to experience separation. Period. And how is the best way and the quickest way we can have that experience? Everything below this line is what heaven is not. Everything out below this line, right, is built upon the idea that you can be separate.
So the best way to experience separation is to have a physical body.
Yes. And the best way that you can experience physical separation is that the body can absorb all the emotions of that separation.
That makes it very visceral.
It's the pain that makes this real. Okay? So, the meaning of life is this. In this is a device that's helping us to wake up. Okay? Set that aside for a second. But inside this device, we are miscreating. And we have to learn how to miscreate first before we learn how to create. Because when we go back up to here, we're going to be co-creators. And we need to know what we're doing. Okay? And the best way we can do that is to learn what not to do. To put another word for this, is up here is everything that is love. And everything that's down here is everything that love is not. So you can have what love is not, or you can have what love is. You can't have both. So, you're here to experience every love that is not. You're here to experience the illusion of love. And you're here to make that choice. Do I want this or do I want that? You can't have both. So, this is what we have been doing in this cycle here for thousands of years. We have been coming here and we have had many, many experiences. We've been killers, we've been killed. We've been rapists, we've been raped. Basically everybody that's here is you having an experience of what they're experiencing. Whether you like it or not. Okay, if you can't come to terms with that part of this, then you're really going to be stuck within the course. Yeah.
When you're in physical form, in the physical universe, is that evidence that you still have attachments, or is it possible to let go of all your guilt and attachments and still come into the physical
It
universe?
depends. Like Jesus says, there's not too many have volunteered to come back.
Gee, I wonder why.
And he says that in the course. You know. So, and he also says there's been no mass awakening at this stage either. So this is only the beginning of it. You know. Up until this point, over the last couple of thousand years, you might have had one person a lifetime, maybe waking at all point. You know. Rumi and people like that, Krishnamurti and, you know, things like that. Like, you know, but there are more and more people. At the moment on the planet, there's more awakened people on the planet now than there's ever been. You know, because this is all preparation for those who want to go home. So.
And the other question I have is, you said that the tiny mad idea, if you're going with that story, it would have happened once you were already in the dream. So that means that it happened below that red line at level 6 with the Christ consciousness?
Yeah, it would have happened here. But
So
remember, this is all, don't get into
Okay.
form, if you know what I mean. I'm only using this as everything. So there's no real lines anywhere, like, you know, it's an awareness. So everything's happening in here, but we think that this is what's happening. So the whole dream is occurring here.
Right,
Remember I
right,
did-
right. Yeah, because you never left God,
Yeah,
so you're
yeah.
still in there.
So-
No, but what I'm saying is that first you had the thought of separation. Is this right? First you had the thought of you wanted to know what
No, we have
what
the contract
awareness
with
was
God.
not.
We have the contract with God.
And then you go into the dream, and then you have, once you find yourself there in panic because you've forgotten, then
Yeah.
you have
well,
that,
You have what?
the tiny mad idea?
No. The way this works is, right, we have the contract with God. Okay? And the contract was this. Or asked the question, did we want to wake up? And the answer was obviously yes. How were we going to do that was up to us. The tiny mad idea was how we were going to wake up. All right? We were going to create a story that was so drastic that we would believe I was separated from God, and that we would believe we're separate. The only way that we could really make sure that the belief in separation worked was pain.
Mm-hmm.
So the more, like Jesus says in the Course, when there's God, there's no pain. When there's pain, there's no God. So pain says the separation has worked. Sickness says the separation worked. Death says the separation worked. Okay, so all of these tell us that the separation worked. And we needed this. We needed this to happen because we had to believe we're separate to come to know ourselves. What's the best way you can come to know yourself? Is to lose yourself and then find yourself. What's the best way to know love? Is to lose love and then find out what love is. You have to go through all the experiences of the illusion of love, all that pain. Everything that's not true is going to hurt you. That's that simple. It's a reinterpretation of everything. So my forgiveness lessons are about me not becoming attached to anything. It's not about me seeing guilt in someone or seeing what somebody's done wrong here or whatever. That I don't buy into that bullshit. To me, it's about attachment and detachment. What do I want? Do I want to keep the bliss that I have, my oneness with God, or do I want separation? And if I want separation, all I have to do is become attached to somebody or something. Now, that's it. I'm in the ego thought system. So you have to be really honest with yourself here. So here, the first thing in the meaning of life is you're here to experience separation. You're here to experience everything that heaven is not. Okay? Now this is vital for everybody starting out to do the course. Because if you don't get this right in your head, what's coming next, you're always going to be in a state of conflict. The next thing is you have to make a decision. You want nothing else. If you want to wake up now, this is level 2. You have every experience, and you have experienced everything that heaven is not, and you're tired, and you want to go home and say, I don't want to come back here anymore. A lot of people have made that decision. Okay? The reason why they're making that decision is because they've had thousands of lifetimes here, and they're just sick and tired. It's like a child playing with a toy. We've been playing with the ego for a long, long time. We're just fed up with it. I want to go home. So, here you experience separation, everything in heaven is not, and when you have made your mind up at that, and you want nothing else, you're deciding to wake up. Then, your last one is when? Because you are in charge of time. Okay? And the way this goes, the more you let go of your attachments, the more you wake up. Cause and effect. You can't keep your attachments and basically wake up. That's what every spiritual seeker has done. The errors that most have done. They've tried to hold on to either their reputation, their identity, their special relationships, and they're on this search to wake up. You can see the conflict of interests. You can't have both. When Jesus says the parable, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Do you know what that means?
Attachments, letting go.
Yeah. The rich man is a man who's rich in attachments. Okay? He said, maybe he's a man, he's attached to his gender. Maybe it's a woman attached to her gender. Maybe she's attached to her reputation. Maybe she's attached to her nationality. Maybe she's attached to her religion. Even attached to A Course in Miracles. All of these are attachments that have to be relinquished. So you can't go through the eye of a needle with them. A camel has no identity. A camel has no thoughts about what's true or not true, what's good or bad, what's right or wrong. That's why a camel can go through the eye of the needle. Okay? So that's what the level we have to get to. We have to relinquish our identities. That's the attachment. The biggest attachment that you have is to yourself. Your personality, your persona, your shadow. And then there are defenses around that, but we'll get to that later. So, what happens is here, is let's say you've done your work here now, and you're in ascension. And what happens is you get up to here, and now you don't come back here. What happens is now you go up to here, and then you go to here, and then you go to here. And you're in charge of time the whole way. The more you let go, the more you ascend. It's that simple. Okay? And the last thing I want to show you here before we go is time. So time at this level you could say is 1,000 years. And it's linear. Okay? And Jesus says right at the beginning of the Course in time to look at vertical time. Okay? So we're always looking at time as past, present, future. So time goes like this: past, present, and then future. But what we're looking at is we're going to go up the way of time. Because this world is dense and it's physical, it takes time for us to move through that physical space. That's why time here is much denser. Up here in the spiritual universe, okay, 1 year is 1,000 years down here. In the higher self, it's 1 day. Up here, it's 1 second. And up here, it's 0, timelessness. Okay? So, Jesus says in the Course, and he said 2,000 years, no one comes to the Father except through me. And what he's talking about, on our ascension up, we have to come to Christ. This is the real world that Jesus is talking about in the Course, where we become one with each other. There's no form here. There's no bodies. There's no identity of any kind on anybody. Our only identity is that we are one. Christ
is awareness.
Yes. Sheer awareness of that oneness. We've never had that before. Okay? And here, so if you look at it here, right? 1 second, 1,000 years. So 2,000 years ago, Jesus was here. That was 2 seconds here. So when he says in the Course, when you woke up, I woke up. So it's taken the light, it's taken 2,000 years for this light of Jesus to come to here. But in reality, time is the illusion that when he woke up, we all woke up together. We seem to be dragging. So in our individual experiences, we can choose to wake up whenever we want. Very few people are ready to wake up now, but over the years, more and more people are going to be waking up and raising their consciousness and going home. Any questions on that?
So we can only awaken within the physical universe.
No. You can only let go of your attachments in the physical universe. You don't have to wake up down here.
You mean you can awaken in the
Yes,
spiritual?
yes, you can, after you let go of your stories, your attachments here, when you go back here, you can finish the job there. It's that simple. Okay? Think about it. What keeps bringing you back here?
Right.
Attachments.
It's very Buddhist.
Yeah, that's true. You know, but in the Course, what Jesus says, it's our special relationships. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people have special relationship with the body, with their clothes, with their car. Do you know what I mean? With their neighborhood, with their house. You know what I mean? These are all attachments at the end of the day, but in the Course they're just called special relationships.
And those would bring a person to, cause a person to reincarnate?
Attachments do.
Exactly.
I mean, attachments to the physical?
Of course.
I mean, I can, but.
I mean, if you have something here, the one thing that I got very clear in this, God is not cruel. God's not going to take anything away. Remember here, until you want, not a hair on your head wants anything else in this world. That's the attachment. That's the level. But at that same time, if you can reach that stage, you know, it can only has to take you a second. And it's not a big a task as you think it is to do. All it means is seeing yourself and the people around you just a different way. That's all. You know, so take them off, you know, one at a time. Like work with your grandchildren. Work with your awareness. If you want to waken up, it means you have to become aware. And that means that you have to actually put work into this.
Yeah, definitely.
So what we're going to do in the next class, what we're going to do is we're going to do the ego and the ego thought system and basically how the ego thought systems works. Because if you can understand how the ego works, life's a cinch.
Yeah.
You know, and what I mean by that, like, is you're going to have no more fear, you're going to have no more guilt, you're going to have none of all of these emotions and depressions and all of this shit that we're carrying with us all the time. You know, and that's how simple it is, because the ego has to obey the law of cause and effect. Because it's a device. It doesn't have a mind of its own. It can't pull a sneaky little turn on you, you know, out of character or whatever. It has to obey every law. So that means you can make the ego work for you at the end of the day. The moment the ego is working against you because you don't know how it works. Once you start to learn how it works, you know, it will be a doggle. But if you don't know how it works and you're trying to do A Course in Miracles, it's not a nice course to do for anybody. You know, because you're going to be, basically you're opening Pandora's box and you don't know what to do, what's inside.
That's true of a lot of people in the Course in Miracles. They don't know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. I've come across that.
Yeah.
You know, well, it's up to them to find
Yeah.
out. I mean, if you're with a teacher, they're teachers on every level. All right? So, most people are on level 1. So that's where most teachers are. Some people are on level 2. And the same percentage of teachers are with these people. And some people are here on level 3. Okay? And the same percentage of teachers are here. So everything's relative to everywhere. But the trap for this, if you're here and you're basically following a teacher up here, it's not going to do you much good. You'll learn a lot of cool, interesting stuff. But you need to go through here. Everybody needs to go through this level 2.
I agree.
Okay? This is all the shit that we don't want to look at.
Our teacher is, I mean, I love the man. He's, you know, has a lot of, it's a very sweet man, but he's clinically depressed. He's on meds.
Which teacher are you talking about?
O'Day.
Oh,
He's clinically depressed on meds.
that's not a good sign.
And sometimes he's so depressed he can't even teach.
I'll need to edit that out.
Yes, I was thinking that, yeah.
Okay, let's finish up now.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
You said on number 7, the 7th level, it's love. But isn't there love in the Christ state? I mean, why?
And this state here?
Yeah. So what's the difference?
Basically, it's love based from everywhere up here.
Okay. So what's
Okay.
the difference between the 7th level love and the 6th level love?
Here, this is basically the oneness of ourselves in love. Here's the oneness of everything in love. It's a much intenser love. In fact, the higher you go, you're in, this is going to be the rush of all rushes. I've had little bits of experience of this at the moment, like, and I'm telling you, it is intense. It takes a little bit of getting used to, you know, but ultimately it's going to be, I can't wait. You know? So basically here, once you go into the spiritual universe, right, here there's peace in non-duality. Here, there's no peace here or here. Here is the same thing. There's only peace in oneness.
So the 3 on the left is equivalent to the 4 on the right. Is that right?
These 3 here are equivalent to these 3 here.
The 2 over there is equivalent to the 4 over there?
This is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Because here we go back into the mind. This is spirit.
Okay.
The Holy Spirit, remember, this is the right mind to think in. That's what the spiritual universe is, it's right mind to think in.
Okay.
Up here is the higher self. Up here is your higher self. 2 become 1. Down here you have right and wrong, good and bad. Here you have right and wrong, good and bad. So you can see this is identical to the template for separation as the levels that's in the course. Everything fits in to this template here and that template in the course. Yeah?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks folks.